All right, everyone. Let's get started. I appreciate you waiting a few extra minutes past 11 to get things rolling today. So my name is Ben Richards. I'm a loan officer with Direct Mortgage Loans here in the Baltimore, Harford County area. But I'm also one of the in-house lenders here for you all at Keller Williams Legacy. So I'm thrilled to be here today to talk to you a little bit about transaction management, specifically from what happens from contract acceptance to closing. So today, just going over a quick agenda, we're going to identify and define the steps of the process. We'll provide some insight as to what's happening during each stage. We're going to give examples, including situations to avoid and common mistakes that come up during the process. And lastly, we're going to show off a little bit, what my team and I have done is spend a tremendous amount of time and effort mastering this process. So we see a lot of value in it and look forward to sharing that with you. To get things started, we'll meet the team. Starting from the left, Taylor Brewer is our executive assistant. She's not with us today, although we wish she was here. She's plenty busy behind the computer, and her working allows me to be here, which is great stuff. So. Next up, we have Jamie Russell. Jamie Russell was kind enough to be here today with us. She is our operations manager for the entire branch, has a ton of experience. What, thousands of loans you think you've done?
Pretty much 16 years, seen it all,
Yeah.
seen the peaks, the valleys, and everything in between, all the guideline changes, pretty much all of it, most unique scenarios, although I still get surprised sometimes.
So, we talk about experience and how, going through this a couple of times, you learn different things. Different clients present different obstacles in different situations. So to have someone like Jamie is incredibly valuable. She's quite literally a professional problem solver and always does it with a smile on her face. So that's something I admire. And thank you for being here today. And then the big fat white face on the right is me, so we can move on. All right, so why are we here today? Why are we talking about contracts to closing? The first thing that comes to mind is closing is when we all get paid. So, that's pretty important. That's why we signed up for the business. But besides that, more genuinely, it's arguably probably the most stressful part of this process for your client. I think most people would agree with that. So we've spent a lot of time and effort in trying to take that stress away, making sure that your client is, well informed of what to expect, and make sure that this is a smooth and timely transaction for all parties involved. So it's important to note that before we get the contract or before the client goes under contract, we do a ton of due diligence up front, informing the borrower about the process, what to expect. We're obtaining any relevant documentation such as pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns in certain cases, depending on the client's situation. So we really do our homework up front so that we have a clean buttoned up file. By the time we get under contract, we're just kind of smooth sailing from there. So just with that as a little bit of background, you get your client under contract, you hear the news from the listing agent, you've shared it with your buyer and they're super excited. The next thing you do is you send the ratified contract over to me and my team. So once we receive the contract, we immediately send it over to our operations team, which is Jamie and some of her crew. But in the meantime, Taylor and I take this as the opportunity to reach out and communicate, be proactive in our communication to all parties involved. So I won't read this whole thing, but as you can see, this is kind of like a template email that Taylor sends out, introducing herself, that she's connected with me, as well as naming Jamie, our operations manager, and the specific processor who's assigned this file. So both the buyer's agent and the listing agent and the title company, anyone that needs to be updated, they have the contact information for everyone on my team that's going to have their hands in this transaction. So again, we really like to take this opportunity to be proactive about our communication, as opposed to having someone wonder when they're going to get an update from us. We are not subscribers of the belief that no news is good news. We like to make sure everyone's well informed throughout the process, even when things are going smoothly, which they almost always do.
And another good thing about this email template is it loops everybody into one. So say you have a transaction coordinator, or you have a team that you want to keep informed of the status throughout the process. Everybody's already looped in together here. So listing agent, buyer's agent, you can say, hey, can you actually also be sure to include so-and-so? Or a lot of times the listing agent's team will say, when you are scheduling or when you're ordering the appraisal, can you please make sure the appraiser is reaching out to whomever? So instead of anybody having to guess who you need to communicate, this email goes out right after the contract comes in. So you've got our entire team CC'd on there. So you're not worried about, am I getting this information to the right person? Is it going to make its way to the right person? We're all right there looped in from straight out of the gate pretty much.
Absolutely. And just if you, depending on your business practices, at this point, if you have the title contact, we would love it, so we can include them into this. If not, I think best practice would be, that your buyer should begin that kind of title search journey, whether it's someone that you've introduced them to, or, if they're the type of client that wants to shop for title companies on their own. Just as soon as we can expedite that process, it keeps us on the right time frame for us. So again, all of our content.
Question.
Check.
Is that the title company recommendations? Do you guys provide recommendations, or the?
We can.
Yeah, we certainly can. I like to frame me and my team as an extension of you, right? So you referred the client to us.
Right.
Now, as we know each other and have worked together, if you came to me and was like, hey, Ben, not sure what title company, we should use on this. Do you have a reference? And yes, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. But I wouldn't proactively say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, here's the title company you're using. I'd let you kind of facilitate that conversation.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
And we have a few, a little bit off of the initial slide, I know, but we have homeowners insurance references. With our team, there are decades of experience between everybody on our team. So we have a lot of vendors that have experience working with us, know what our expectations are on the lender side, but then also have experience of providing platinum service to our clients. So that is something that we can absolutely offer if we need it.
Cool. All right, so next one, and this is where Jamie will start to get more kind of involved, because this was really her world. But we send out the loan estimate, which is one of our first disclosure packages that we send out once the application comes in. As you all are familiar with the contract, there's typically a clause saying that the client has to make mortgage application by X date, typically within a week of the ratified contract. So that's a top priority for us to make sure that we're hitting those time frames. So as soon as the contract comes in, our operations team starts to get the file ready to disclose. The loan estimate itself just has some basic loan details as far as estimated monthly payment, their estimated cash to close, itemizing their closing costs. But at this stage in the process, it's really important to remember that a lot of these things are estimates. So, they don't have their homeowners insurance policy finalized. So we're estimating that. depending on the title company, like as Shank mentioned earlier, if we don't have a title company yet, we're probably reaching out to one of our title companies that we use often and getting something called a pre-CD, pre-closing disclosure, which will give their estimated fees and stuff like that. So a lot of the itemization that goes into the loan estimate, they're not lender related fees. However, we have the responsibility of showing the client what those fees are going to kind of look like. So it is an estimate again, but we are able to get pretty accurate between leveraging some of our title partners, some of the different software that we have, grabbing resources through various county websites and stuff to get property tax information. We do a lot of, the due diligence on our end behind the scenes. So, and then once the loan estimate is disclosed, it's required for the client to sign it within 3 days to remain compliant. So, do you have anything else on that one? No.
That was pretty straightforward.
All right, cool. So once the loan estimate is signed, the initial disclosure package is signed. We are in processing. We move to the next milestone. Milestone would be synonymous with steps in this process. So processing is the next major milestone. We have 2 processors in-house that process 100% of our files. Karen and Kristen, both super experienced. They are something that's unique to this role is how much these girls prioritize customer service. They are in communication with our client throughout the process, and their tonality, their ability to be empathetic to like technical difficulties maybe or something like that is it's second to none. They're truly extraordinary in that sense. So as someone who has had different experiences with other companies, I can say that this is truly unique and tremendously valuable, not only to me, but as an extension of that, you all as well. So I'm going to invite Jamie to come up, talk a little bit more about what processing is, maybe some things to look out for, or some kind of common issues people run into. However you feel about going about that would be great.
Just to kind of touch a little bit more on the 2 processors, you should know that if you are working with Ben, you're not getting a randomly assigned processor from our company. You are getting one of the 2 girls here. Karen her heart is probably the biggest heart I've ever known. She started with our team and actually grew from her original role into processing.
We've got a special guest today.
Brandon
The
also.
one and only.
Yeah, so I always interrupt, but hey, I can't help it.
Oh,
Just
When excellence is here, you gotta.
it stops everything.
It's good to see you too, Brad.
But yeah, so Karen, I mean, she kind of saw what our branch was about when she first onboarded with our team and loved our dynamic, loved what our team offered, and realized that she could take her position within our group even farther and really get the hands-on, one-on-one way to just help all of our clients personally. And she's really done well since she's been promoted into her current role. And then Kristen came to us, highly recommended. She initially was brought to us to help our Ocean City branch out, but we quickly realized what a dynamic addition she was to our team. So she's actually not only helping with our Ocean City branches files, but she's doing a lot of this side of the bridge as well. Both of them have a ton of experience. They live by the motto of treat every client as if it is your personal family member or friend. A lot of times we talk about if your parents had to relay to you their experience working with somebody in the mortgage industry, would you be okay with how your borrower would refer to you?
Mhm.
And that's kind of just our big thing across the board when anybody on our team is communicating with our clients.
The one great challenge that happens in processing a lot of times is the miscommunication between what the processor, our team is asking for and what the client might be able or willing to provide in the sense of documentation. An example would be, we require bank statements and we have to get all pages of the bank statements. Oftentimes when you print a bank statement, the last page is blank. For whatever reason, for underwriting purposes, we have to have all of these pages. It has to have the URL code at the bottom, just to make sure that people are really creative these days with forging these kinds of things. So there's certain kind of guidelines that they need, and there's really no wiggle room. So the skill that they have in walking through, walking someone who, maybe they just take a screenshot on their phone and send it to us and think that's going to be sufficient. The patience that they have and the ability and skill that they have to explain to them why we need things the way we ask for it is incredible, and it helps ease that burden or stress that the borrower has. It's not like, oh my God, I sent them my bank stuff and they're not taking it. It's like, no. They've been informed, they understand why we need it like this. And again, it just makes things overall an easier experience. So while we're in processing, the whole point of processing is to get the file ready for underwriting. So again, they're asking for any additional documentation, could be an updated pay stub. Again, we've collected 90% of this, 99% of this prior to them going under contract, but we need to keep updated pay stubs, updated bank statements. It might be the pay stub from the month before. So they're keeping up with stuff like that. They're encouraging the borrower to take any home buyer education course that might be required for their loan program, or helping them get a time frame of when they should get their homeowners insurance set up. And then while all this is going on, we're also ordering the inspections, home inspections, appraisals, all that sort of stuff. So Jamie, do you have anything to add about like this kind of stuff?
Yep, so your clients will be hearing from the processor within 24 hours of the contract hitting their inbox. We assign them pretty much as soon as the loan officer forwards the contract over to us. We're assigning a processor to that file who essentially takes it from contract to close. So you're not going to have a client who's hearing from this person and then this person and then another person, and they never know who they're actually dealing with. Your processor that is assigned will be with your client start to finish as soon as that contract comes in. They're going to take a look at everything that the loan officer has gathered on the front end for the pre-qualification steps and getting them under contract, and they're going to see what are the dates on the documents based on this client's specific scenario. What additional documentation are we going to need? They try to be pretty thorough, but not overly tedious to the point that they're going to end up holding anything up from going to the underwriter initially. Like I said, within 24 hours of them getting that contract, they're doing that review and they're reaching out to your client. So it's not a matter of they're going to be sitting waiting to hear anything from the lender for a week or anything like that. Once we have enough of the minimum documentation to get the file in with the underwriter, that process is immediately pushing it forward into the process, getting it into the underwriting queue. We have one underwriter assigned to our team. So another awesome thing, again, when working with Ben, you're not getting a randomly assigned processor. You're not getting a randomly assigned underwriter. That has been a huge value to our team because we know exactly what type of training we give to the processors and what our expectation is of their experience with the client. So that's going to be consistent from one client to the next. And then with the underwriter, with having one designated underwriter, we know exactly what kind of conditions to anticipate in order for the processor to be proactive on those items. And then also be able to work with one person's personality and experience and everything like that. So it's not rolling the dice on who we're getting or what they're going to come up with needing. Makes underwriting extremely easy, and honestly being able to pick up the phone and talk to one person, however long that phone call needs to be, we can get everything answered, throw scenarios out, pretty much problem solve or brainstorm through all of it with just one phone call. Once they issue the conditional approval, think I might be running ahead, but,
It's all right, we'll get there.
once they issue the conditional approval, again, that 24-hour expectation with the processor is again back in place. That conditional approval come out within 24 hours, your processor is pulling those conditions and sending them out to the client. So our system, I believe, also has an automated email that will go out to the client. It's super generic. It doesn't have any of the conditions listed in it. So we really try to make sure that our actual personal email with congratulations, you're conditionally approved. Here's what we need to get you to the final finish line. That'll go out pretty shortly within the automated one, but
Yeah.
again, the automated emails are so unpersonal.
Yeah,
Don't have a whole lot of information.
yeah.
We don't operate like that.
So to kind of reiterate Jamie's point, this is an example. We don't have to read through the whole thing. But this is an example of the email that Karen sends out to the client once she's notified that they've been under contract. So as Jamie mentioned, this goes out within 24 hours. As you can see, the conditions, what we're asking for is very clear and concise. She mentions, please be sure to be responsive to any emails you receive from our team, as we want to ensure a smooth arrival for your closing date. So the expectation of responsiveness has been made. And it's very clear, it's very personal. She reaches out and says, if there's any questions, like, feel free to contact me directly. So again, just adding that truly personal touch. And our goal here is for you to be able to trust us that we have someone holding their hand through the entire process. So that we have the system in place. We can kind of be a chameleon in a sense of, if a certain client needs, their hand held a little bit more than others, we can absolutely do that. But the foundational system is really strong here. So
And on this email, Ben's whole team will be CC'd on it. So you never have to worry about, is the processor not communicating with Ben or anything like that. You could pretty much contact anybody on Ben's team at any point in the process and we'll all know what's going on. His team will get included on the appraisal order, title order, pretty much any internal order. So if there are questions or concerns that come up at any point, you could call Ben or you can call the processor and we'll all have the same information because nobody's being left out of it.
Yeah.
So specifically for the introduction email and the conditional approval email, it'll be Ben, his assistant Taylor, your processor and I all on there. So there should not be any lapse of communication within the team. And behind the scenes of that too, we're brainstorming through any questions or concerns that there might be.
Mhm.
So it all gets resolved pretty quickly.
yeah. And again, the overall theme is like, we are really proud of these systems. And the reason that we have the system that we have now is by tailoring it from feedback from our realtor partners, from clients, just to make sure that, again, everything's very clear, everything's very, concise, and everyone knows what they need to do to achieve, the common goal that we have, which is to make it to settlement on time. So, anything here? All right, this infographic before Jamie starts talking about underwriting and how that process kind of works. I just thought this was helpful to throw up. It's an infographic that our marketing team has generated. We're able to send this kind of stuff out to clients or print them out. We can co-brand them with your information. If you'd like to do, a home buyer seminar, or you go to an open house and want to have some marketing materials. It's not just this. We have all kinds of stuff about loan programs, checklists, what not to do, what to do, all that kind of stuff. So if anyone has any idea in mind or something specific that they're looking for, I'd encourage them to reach out to me, and we can absolutely get our marketing team on that and get it done. So as you can see, we're around step 7 here in the process. So coming down the home stretch, getting the file from processing into underwriting. What does that look like, Jamie?
Yep, so like I kind of mentioned, we get the conditional approval, it lets us know the final items needed. Pretty much, for lack of, I guess, a more professional way of putting it, we're shining it up, putting a bow on everything, just submit it back to the underwriter for the final review. This will entail getting homeowners insurance finalized. It's not required for it to be finalized prior to our final approval. So at this point, that is when we are reaching out to the homeowners insurance agent, making sure that that's finalized. We're ensuring that they have sufficient coverage to make sure that they're not being underinsured or anything like that. The appraisal will come in, we'll get that reviewed, make sure value's there, any repairs that are needed, the initial email chain that Taylor started. If there are repairs noted, she's reaching out to let them know, here's what the appraiser addressed. Can you let us know once it's been done so we can send the appraiser back out for the final inspection? The title work will come in. 9 times out of 10, your title work is going to be clear. If it's not clear, processor, loan officer, potentially the buyer, if it's anything on the buyer side. A lot of times it's the lister seller side. But if there's anything there, we're working behind the scenes to get that all cleared up. Processing's job with the client a lot of times is to preemptively review everything once we do have the conditional approval to make sure that the underwriter is not going to come back and ask for more. We're really not a big fan of files going back and forth to underwriting because a lot of times when you do that too many times, the underwriter essentially gets frustrated with it and they find reasons to come up with more. So our processors are really proactive and they will take the time to actually review everything with their underwriter hat on to see if there's anything else. Perfect example that I know comes up most frequently is with a bank statement. If there's a large deposit, and processing will make sure, depending on the loan type, what that threshold is, and then they're communicating back to the borrower, hey, we've got this large deposit. Underwriting is going to come back and ask us to figure out where this deposit came from. Let's go ahead and document it. So that's when they're reaching back out and just kind of keeping in mind with clients, if we're reaching back out to you, it's not because the processor is trying to be difficult or they're trying to ask you for everything but your right arm, which has been a running joke with a recurring client and I, but you know, just, it might seem like that, but just know that they're coming from a place of making sure that the underwriter doesn't get frustrated and then overly asks for things that shouldn't even be necessary. And on the flip side, they also know if something could potentially be questionable, we're not going to present that specific thing to an underwriter. They'll maybe sidestep and ask for alternative documentation to prevent cans of worms from being opened.
Exactly.
But and our processors are fantastic about that.
So again, that's kind of in this middle period here between underwriting and final underwriting. As Jamie mentioned, that's when we're going to see, you know, some of those reports come back, the appraisal, all that kind of stuff. That's when we're putting the bow on. So at this point, as well, as Jamie mentioned, gathering any final documentations, the examples being appraisals, final documentations regarding the borrower's income or assets. We also produce the closing disclosure, which is another disclosure package that we're required to send to the borrower. Closing disclosure has to go out at least 3 days prior to settlement. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau defines it as a closing disclosure is a 5-page document that provides final details about the mortgage loan you've selected. It includes loan terms, your projected monthly payments, and how much you will pay in fees and other costs to get your mortgage, which is synonymous with your closing costs. So the difference between your loan estimate and the closing disclosure are a lot of the things in the loan estimate, such as the homeowner's insurance, such as you know, HOA numbers and title fees and all that kind of stuff that were estimated in the loan estimate are now finalized in the closing disclosure, giving the borrower a much more accurate figure to then wire or bring to settlement. So, and again, that has to be signed at least 3 days prior to settlement. So once we have the closing disclosure signed, we've submitted for final underwriting approval. Jamie, how does that typically work? If they, once we submit the file, it's already been submitted once, they've already looked at, you know, their W-2s, their pay stubs, all that kind of stuff, but they haven't looked at, you know, the appraisal and some of these other documents that we received in this last round of processing. What are they looking at for the final approval? Are they looking at the whole thing again, or does this take longer, or?
Yes and no, I'm looking at it again. It depends how complete of a package we have or how complicated of a scenario it is. A lot of times they aren't having to have to go back and look at certain documents just because they either didn't need elaboration or additional documentation for it, or it's just really not relevant to what they need for the final CTC. They're gonna go back through, a lot of times the appraisal, they'll get an automated notification once we upload that. So a lot of times that may even be reviewed already, which is great and really helpful for us, because if there are any tweaks or revisions that we need made to the appraisal report, that final report is already in the file for them to click that sign off button. They're gonna double check if it's income and employment documentation that they had conditioned us for. They're gonna make sure that with the updated documentation that we provided to them, it is in line with what our intention was to show on this application for their creditworthiness and ability to repay the loan, which is ultimately what the underwriter is looking for. Homeowners insurance, making sure any of the little QC things are taken care of. Some things they'll even allow us to gather after they've issued the clear to close, just so that we can move things along into the closing department. But that review, with having one designated underwriter, I would say that review again takes no longer than 24 hours. And same thing with the initial underwrite. There are rare instances right now where it'll maybe take 48 hours, but we are nowhere near what it started to look like back in
Yeah,
the 2020, 2021 boom.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's also really helpful too with having a designated underwriter, because if we submit or resubmit a ton of files all at once, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, this person really needs the commitment letter,
Yeah.
or they really need to be able to start packing up,
Yeah.
scheduling things, whatever the scenario is. She's very flexible, so she typically works based on closing dates. So whoever's got the soonest settlement date, that's gonna take priority to the others.
Yeah.
And then one step further to that is if we give her a call and say, it's really important that we have this one taken care of, then she jumps right into it.
Yeah, which again, it's just another example of you're dealing with people with like, you know, empathetic people who understand things happen and understand that we have, you know, certain dates that we need to hit and milestones that we need to hit. And sometimes you have to rush things through or reprioritize a certain file. And that just simply does not happen elsewhere. This is very unique to us at DML to be able to provide this type of experience, which we're confident that provides value for you guys as well. So once we have final approval, we're clear to close. We go to settlement. Everyone's super happy. You all get paid. Take the pictures, 5-star reviews, all that kind of stuff. And wrapping up kind of, you know, the process from start to finish, I just wanted to kind of take a second and revisit why we talked about this today, why it's important, and how it can add value to you and your business. So, you know, the first point is results. Did you get the job done? Did we get to settlement on the settlement date? You know, did everything go through like we said it was going to go through? Check the box there. That's a pretty low bar for us, is just getting the job done. That's, you know, that's not even a factor really. So the next one is are you getting positive feedback from all associated parties regarding communication? Real estate is a pretty small world, and it really matters how you treat people and how you talk to people, and that people are communicated to. And It's important to us that the listing agent, their client has, you know, just as good of a home buying or home selling experience as our buyers have. Because that's only going to, you know, make for a better transaction. So, are you getting positive communication feedback? Does the client feel, we talk so much about how people make decisions on emotion and not logic. And, you know, you all at Legacy are trained here to focus on motivation, what motivates them, right? And let's, you know, constantly try to get back to that emotional piece and why they're involved in the process. So do they feel like they were treated special and had someone hold their hand the entire time? It doesn't have to be you. It can't be you. If you expect to scale your business, you know, you really can't hold everyone's hand all the way through the process. There's just not enough time in the day to do that and then do your income producing activities like lead gen as well. So I think this is an opportunity, and it's important for you to leverage us in the sense that we're an extension of you and we're an extension of your customer service. So between me, between Jamie, between Taylor, between Karen, Kristen, everyone that we spoke about today, there is literally someone holding their hand through the process the entire time. They're constantly engaged. They're constantly, you know, focused on what they need to do next, and they have a, you know, clear understanding of that. And then I alluded to it, but is this an experience you can produce repeatedly and at scale? We're all here to be more successful. We're all here to grow our businesses. This is an experience that we can do, you know, 100 loans a year. We could do 1,000 loans a year like this. And we could do it really, really well at a high level. And it's taken a ton of effort and time to be able to produce a system like this. It also takes a lot of people who have a common goal. So it's something that we're really proud of, and we're hopeful that you would see value in using us, you know, for this.